it is not enough to say on the day of wedding, I do, I do. That may sound so simple, but it's very deep. So after marriage, marriage needs to be sustained. Marriage needs to be nurtured. And you know that the essence of marriage, what makes marriage is actually love. And that's why if you want to live your marriage in a way that you will enjoy it, which is a gift from God, which will lead us to salvation, through which you shall be sanctified, then you need to practice love. Yes. That means you have to practice love as a presence. You practice love as a consecration. You practice love as a devotion. I'm talking about love as presence. You know, if you read Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14, the Lord tells us that the name of God is Emmanuel, God with us. So God is always with us because He loves us. So when you are in love with a man or a woman in marriage, you will always long to be with that person. So when you want to practice that love, practice it as a presence. That means you are present to your spouse mentally, spiritually, morally, and also physically. That is, every time you are thinking about him, you are thinking about her, you are trying to make effort to see how you are going to please that person. So perhaps you may be separated geographically, but spiritually, because of your thoughts of love, you are togetherness. That means whatever you are going to do it together. If you are going to eat together with your wife, with your husband. If you are going to cook, you can also do it together. If you are going to plan, do it together. I said it's called the principle of togetherness. Everything. And now if you begin to do certain things different, alone, and other things together, you are beginning to bring a problem. That's why I said practice love as a presence. Always present to your spouse, no matter the situation, to console, to comfort, to encourage, to plan together. Because that is what God is doing for us. God is always with us. That's why He's called Emmanuel. So I see love as presence. It's not an idle presence, but an active presence, because love has to love. And love is no longer love if love is absent. Love has to be present, and not a presence that is idle, but a presence that is active, always thinking, what am I going to do to help my spouse, to nurture my marriage? In that way, you are not going to have so much devotion about and so much temptation about infidelity. Because anybody who will come to you to tempt you to look for an opportunity will discover that you are occupied. There's no space. The man is always thinking about his wife. The wife is always thinking about her husband. So where is the space? There will be no space for side chick. There will be no space for emergency husband or seasonal husband or whatever they call it. There will be no attachment. You're occupied because you are always thinking, you're always planning, you're always together with your spouse wherever you are. Practice love also as a devotion. If I am devoted to the Blessed Virgin Mary, I am going to study about her life. It's not just to know things about her, but I am going to put into practice what I have studied. I would like to wear things that is associated with Mary. I'm going to keep on studying, learning, even praying and talking to her, so that if there is any day that I have not given her a time to talk, to have a communion, that is what we call prayer, that means I'm not devoted to her, because devotion is a daily practice. Every day you give quality time. Now, when you are talking about love as a devotion that must be practiced in marriage, it is not a seasonal devotion. It is not a devotion that is for a particular time. Somebody was asking me that he would like to have a kind of leave in marriage. He told me, Father, if it is possible to grant him leave, so that he will go and be at one place without the family, without the wife. And I said, there is nothing like that. This is a devotion. You are always together with it. In that way, you are going to become like the one you are devoted to. But that's why when you see a man and a woman living in love, after some years of practicing love, practical, active love, you are going to discover that their two faces will begin to look alike. People will be saying, oh wait, is it like twins? No, in Igbo language we call it ejima. Or some people will say whether the woman is trying to use charm to charm the man. No, it is not charm. In fact, if love is greater than any kind of charm you can think about. Because in heaven and on earth, the greatest reality is love. And that love is God. So if that love is practiced as a devotion, there will be no chance for another, third party. Every temptation, every difficulty that will come, two of you will conquer it because you are together. In our language, we say Igwebike, and that Igwe is the two people. And then the third one is about love as a consecration. If you want to live the fullness of your marriage, then you have to practice love as a consecration. And consecration is about being set apart. I cannot use the chalice for Mass, the Holy Mass, to drink water in my refectory. That chalice has been set apart for Jesus, for the celebration of the Holy Mass. So I can't use it. And if I use it, it's going to be sacrilege. In marriage, it will be adultery. If it is between two people that are not married, it will be, fornication. So in that case, you have to practice love as a consecration. That a man has been consecrated to the wife, and the wife has been consecrated to the man. And two of you have been set apart for each other. So that if the man will leave the woman to look for another man, it becomes a sin of adultery. So is also applicable to the woman. Whatever is consecrated is changed. Don't you see in the Mass, when we begin the prayer of consecration, the bread will change and become the body of Christ. And the wine will change and become the blood of Christ. So in the same way in marriage, this man has been living single for years. But as soon as you pronounce those words of consent in the sacrament of holy matrimony, marriage, you are changed. You are no longer single. You are two, but you are one. Because in marriage, it is one. So there are certain things you need to let go. There are certain things you need to accept from your wife. Because it is about to complement each other. That's why I'm talking about change. You can't tell me that you continue to enter into marriage with the same old mentality as as a single man. No, certain things have to change. You have to adjust. And the man has to adjust. And then you complement. And don't you see, it's beautiful, it's loving. So I am telling you that these three aspects are very important. Practice love. Practice love as a presence. Practice love as a devotion. You give your heart. You give your heart. Not talk about giving 75% or 10% or you give all. In fact, this kind of devotion, I call it martyrdom. No, martyrdom. You have given yourself totally. In fact, you exist in your wife and your wife exists in you. Jesus tells us about that in the sacrament of the Eucharist, that when you consume me, when you eat me, I will be in you. I live in you and you live in me. That is a wonderful mystery of communion. And that is what God has for marriage. And when now you apply that, the one of consecration, which is even the basic, then you will see that this thing is something that is so marvelous. So marvelous. Because it is a vocation. God is calling you to that. And if God is calling you to that, these three things you have to practice. And remember, I said, put into practice the principle of togetherness. Togetherness. In such a way that you have in-laws, sister-in-laws, brother, uncle, or of course, all of them are going to make some impulse in your marriage. They are going to influence you. Very good. But the man and the woman, principle of togetherness. If you are the wife, don't begin to practice charity. Extend charity to your father and your mother without the consent of the man. It will look like it is a charity. So the man your father will be saying, it is my daughter, my daughter. Once your father begins to speak that kind of language, you have defeated the intention of marriage. The charity to your father or to your family should be together. Husband and wife, charity together, praying together, eating together, sleeping on the same bed, not having separate rooms. No. When you begin to have those kind of things, you see that you are beginning to deviate. And then the third party will come because you have created a space. That was the problem also from the beginning, that Adam left Eve. Well, I don't know where he went. But you discover that Satan took the opportunity of the vacuum and came and tempted Eve, and Eve gave up. And from Eve, the enemy captured man. So that is it. Create joy, because that joy is in your home waiting for you. Create it. Make your home to be a home of joy. Because wherever there is love, there is joy. And if you say you practice love and there is no joy and there is no peace, it is fake love.